Quarterback in fantasy football is an interesting position when it comes to your draft. It's either a race to grab one of the consensus top 2 guys, or a long wait of at least 7 or 8 rounds before someone gets taken from the QB blob. Surely there's a guy in here who can help me out this season, you say to yourself. That strategy paid off last season for those of you who took Cam Newton, who started slipping into the 8th or 9th round or even later after receiver Kelvin Benjamin's season-ending injury in 2015. I'm John Solly from Pro Football Weekly, and here are 4 quarterbacks we're not drafting as a starter in fantasy football this year. Number 4, Derek Carr, Raiders. Wait, what? I thought you guys were all over the Raiders this year, says the guy who's watching our videos. Thanks for that, by the way. Yes, we like the Raiders in reality, but in fantasy, Derek Carr is hoping to crack the top 12 this season. After a rookie season where he was number 20 among quarterbacks and last year where he was 15th, Carr's an average draft position of 13th among QBs according to Fantasy Pros as of this taping. That sounds about right for Carr as a top flight number 2 fantasy QB, but not number 1, at least not yet. We're more concerned about how he ended last year with 7 interceptions in his final 5 games. Carr also had 5 games with fewer than 200 yards last year. That's not your number 1 QB. Number 3, Tony Romo, Cowboys. Romo's ADP is 10th as of this video, which is surprising considering the injury risk associated with someone coming off a devastating collarbone injury, and he's 36 years old, and he's on the downside of his career. Make no mistake, Dallas is going to run the ball this year and protect Romo. Ezekiel Elliott is going to play a major role for the Cowboys' keep-away offense, which means Romo isn't throwing the ball, which means he's not much use to you in fantasy. Again, as a number 2 QB on your fantasy team, we like him, just not number 1. Number 2, Andy Dalton, Bengals. So Andy Dalton still is AJ Green, that's good, and we like Green a lot this year, but that doesn't mean we have to get on board with Dalton too. Dalton was on pace last season for his best fantasy year ever with 25 touchdowns in 13 games before an injury derailed that. Dalton has lost so much more since then. Complimentary wide receivers Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu left via free agency. Offensive coordinator Hugh Jackson is now the Browns head coach, and tight end Tyler Eifert starts the year missing a few months with an ankle injury. Remember the 2014 Bengals season when Eifert and Marvin Jones were on injured reserve and Green missed 3 games with injury? The Bengals finished 25th in passing attempts and 5th in rushing attempts. Would anybody be surprised if the Bengals trended toward that this season? Number 1, Blake Bortles, Jaguars. Bortles' ADP is 8th as of this video, so the Bortles hype train has already left the station, you mad group of fantasy nerds. Bortles is the quarterback that screams regression this year. Jacksonville scored almost 88% of the time through the air last year. Then Jacksonville signed running back Chris Ivory to go with second-year running back TJ Yeldon. Plus, with a revamped and improved Jacksonville defense, Bortles won't be able to replicate what he did in what was mostly garbage time last year. Bortles also only completed about 58% of his passes a year ago. That's a number that has to improve, and Jacksonville is going to run the ball more with the signing of Ivory. Blake's a fine QB too, but don't draft him expecting to be the same fantasy scoring machine he was a year ago. So that's our list. Disagree? Let us know about it in the comments. You can find me here on Twitter, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For Pro Football Weekly, I'm John Solly, and we'll see you on the field.